Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodhanandana Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodhanandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Radha Radhanata Radha Radhanata Radhe Jaya Radha Radhanata Radha Nittai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaur Hari Bol Nittai Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Prabhupada 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 Nittai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaur Hari Bol Nittai Gaur Their Lordship Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Jai, Srimad Mahaprabhu Ki Jai, Srila Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So this morning we are continuing our discussion and reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 19. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this chapter is titled The Characteristics of King Puranjana. Nana Ranya Mrigra Vritahi. Nana Anabhade Munivratahi. Nabrate Munivratahi. Ahutam Manyate Panto. Ahutam Manyate Panto. Yatra Kokila Kunjatai. Nana Aranya Mrigra Vritahi. Anabhade Munivratahi. Padhe Munivratahi. Ahutam Manyate Panto. Ahutam Manyate Panto. Yatra Kokila Kunjatai. Nana Aranya Mrigra Vritahi. Anabhade Munivratahi. Ahutam Manyate Panto. Yatra Kokila Kunjatai. Naranya Aranya Mrigra Vritahi. Anabhade Munivratahi. Ahutam Manyate Panto. Yatra Kokila Kunjatai. Nanaranya Mrigra Vritahi. Anabhade Munivritahi. Ahutam Mayate Panto. yatra kokila kunjate nanaranya mrigravritahi anabhade munivrittahi ahutam manyate panto yatra kokila kunjate. Now we will read the translation and then we will have the transliteration by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Okay, let's read the transliteration first. Nana, various. Aranya, forest. Mrigha, animals. Vratahi, with groups. Anabhade, in the matter of non-violence. Munivratahi, like the great sages. Ahutam, as if invited. Manyate, things. Panta, passenger. Yatra, where. Kokila, of cuckoos. Kunjitai, by the cooing. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In such an atmosphere, even the animals of the forest became non-violent and non-envious like great sages. Consequently, the animals did not attack anyone. Over and above everything was the cooing of the cuckoos. Any passenger passing along the path was invited by the atmosphere to take rest in that nice garden. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. A peaceful family with wife and children is compared to the peaceful atmosphere of the forest. Children are compared to non-violent animals. Sometimes, however, wives and children are called Svagankaya, Dasi, burglars in the name of kingsmen. A man earns his livelihood with hard labor, but the result is that he is plundered by his wife and children exactly as a person in a forest is attacked by some thieves and burglars who take his money. Nonetheless, in family life, the turmoil of wife and children appears to be like the cooing of the cuckoos in the garden of family life. Being invited by such an atmosphere, the person who is passing through such a blissful family life desires to have his family with him at all costs. Translation once again. In such an atmosphere, even the animals of the forest become non-violent and non-envious like great sages. Consequently, the animals did not attack anyone. Over and above everything was the cooing of the cuckoos. Any passenger passing along that path was invited by that atmosphere to take rest in that nice garden. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhlistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadammayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Sarvadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Raghunata Sahagana Ladita Shri Vishaka Gunavanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate. Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari. Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanan pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nevishesha Sunyavadi Paskatya Deshatarine. So thank you all for being here for this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class, and I pray for the blessings of the Vaishnavas, that I would be able to say something pleasing in honor of Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas this morning. So we are continuing with the discussion of the characteristics of King Puranjana. Of course, this is an allegory, and very interesting here that this discussion, Srila Prabhupada, although his purports are short, but it's an extension from one to the other. So here we read that the translation where it is given exactly that it's presented as very beautiful. It's a beautiful presentation of such a forest where there is non-violent and non-envious animals. Now, when I was reading and I was just thinking about this, imagine a forest where there's animals that are peaceful, that are non-envious. Now, when we know, in South Africa, we are known for the Big Five, right? And that's one of the things where tourists come to us in South Africa, especially to come and look at our animals. So imagine this very peaceful forest where you walk through, everybody's happy, there's non-violence, there's non-envy, and it's likened to the great sages, animals that are likened to the great sages. Consequently, the animals do not attack anyone. And this is, as we know, it's not a characteristic of the animals that we know in today's world. Over and above everything was the cooing of the cuckoos, and any passenger passing along the path was invited by the atmosphere to take rest in this nice garden. So they were invited. When you are invited, it's a warm invitation, right? And these passengers that are passers by, they are now enjoying the rest of this garden. So it's a beautiful descriptive translation of this verse. And if in our mind's eye, we can picture this beautiful garden setting. Animals are calm, likened to the great sages, and people passing by are invited to come over, stop and rest. How beautiful is that? Now, Srila Prabhupada throws the dice here in the purport, and he changes it. And when we were looking at this, he says, oh gosh, family life, right? And the wife and the husband and the children. And how do we relate to this? And Srila Prabhupada speaks about this very openly. And he says children are compared to the non-violent animals in his purport. And sometimes, however, so that word, however, changes the entire tone of the presentation. So now he's being real with us. And he says everything that's beautiful in all this description is not really what the eye meets. Right? So he goes on to say, sometimes, however, wives and children are like burglars in the name of kingsmen. How can Prabhupada say that to us? You know? So he says, wives and children are like burglars of kingsmen. A man earns his livelihood with hard labor. Are we agreeing with Prabhupada so so far. But the result is that he is plundered. What a word, right? Plundered by his wife and children, exactly as a person in the forest is attacked by some thieves and burglars who take away his money. And nonetheless, in family life, the turmoil of wife and children, turmoil, plundered, all these words, he's being heavy, of wife and children appear to be like the cooing of the cuckoos in the garden of family life. So although this is happening, Prabhupada's using these negative descriptions here, although this is happening, but he also says to those experiencing family life, it's the cooing of the cuckoos. It's sweet for them. Right? And being invited by such an atmosphere, again, Prabhupada's taking from the translation exactly, being invited by such an atmosphere, the person who is passing through such a blissful family life desires to have his family with him at all costs. So it's like a double-edged sword. Shakespeare presents this a lot in his works of the Elizabethan time, but this goes back to King Puranjana here, where the scripture says that, it's the life of the material world is that of a double-edged sword. We work so hard in this material world to get money, to maintain the family. And now what Prabhupada says here, the attachment to the wife and children are like that of burglars who come and attack to say, well, through this identity of the body, here we are getting attached to our family. Now, that's where the real issue comes in, because as we know that the false ego means that we are attached to this body. So it's the bodily identification that I am husband, she is my wife here, as we know in this allegory, that the queen is actually found by King Puranjana, and here she is my wife. I am her husband. So we attach to all these material labels or designations to the body. And what happens then is that we work so hard in our life to fulfill that. Now there's two types. It is also described because in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna actually asked Krishna about renunciation, and that's in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna describes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead describes here the two types of renunciates. One is the sannyas and one is the tyaga. Now the sannyas has given up, the sannyasi has been fully renounced. He is not attached to anything. That renunciation means he does not enjoy any part of pleasure in this world. He has given up kamyanam karma. He has given up the activities which is ordinarily desirable by you and I. So these ordinary desires that come about in family life, in material life, whether it's some enjoyment, it's some enjoying with your children, doing activities as a family, these attachments, the sannyas has given up all of that. He does not have any such attachment to the material sense. So things that one wants to do, like enjoy with the opposite sex, like have these relationships of being married and so on, a sannyas has no attachment to that. Whereas Supreme Personality of Godhead describes to Arjuna, then there's a second type of renunciation as well, and that is the tyaga, where that person continues with the life and the activities of whatever happens in this material world, but he gives up the fruits of those activities. So whatever hard work that he may perform, The outcome of it is given back in his devotional service. Whatever fruits from his family life, some people are not able to actually say, I'm going to be brahmachari forever. I'm going to be sannyas forever. You know, like I'm from brahmachari, I'm going to take the order of sannyas, that's going to be my life now. Some do feel, like many of us, to say, we are living in this world, we want to have family, we want to have children, we want to have the grihastha ashram. However, that tyaga now gives the fruits of that labor back to devotional service, because they are able to identify that they are not this body, they are the spirit soul. So there's no real big attachment to the fruits of the activity. So they maintain this very, very fine line of balance, where we are a part of this world, but we are not attached to the outcome of our labor or our attachments. So the sannyas says they will give up everything, but the tyaga will say, I will take a part of it, but I will give the fruit of it back to Krishna and give up my attachment. Now, each one has its own austerity and its own happiness. So the life of complete detachment from this world, the life of a sannyasi, he is completely detached. His happiness is spreading the holy name, going everywhere, chanting, dancing, giving associations, and taking Mahaprabhu's name across the world. Whereas a tyaga, on the other hand, he lives in his family life, but he is also renounced at the same time. Very difficult balance to strike. Because when you are living within a family, sometimes you can get consumed by serving and serving and serving. And now for me, for instance, as a role as a mother, you would become, that's your identity now. I'm a mother, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do that. Whereas, am I really in my next life, am I still going to have that same designation? So in understanding that, the soul, that you are the spirit soul, you need to then identify that my devotional service is first, foremost, top priority. And what can I do for my family if I'm in the grihastha ashram? Inculcate those values within your family life. So it is very interesting that a sannyas, it is also described that a sannyasi is civilly, I'm going to say this, it was from a class from Radha Raman Prabhu, and he describes very nicely that a sannyasi is almost socially, I'm not going to use the word dead, but socially excluded. Right? Socially excluded. And in the Sankaracharya Sampradaya, this is such an interesting phenomenon. Not the Vaishnava Vedic, our Sampradaya, but in the Sankaracharya Sampradaya, when somebody is actually on the path of sannyas, sannyasana is total renunciation, right? He actually goes and performs his own funeral before he takes sannyas. Because he has removed himself from society. There's going to be nobody that's going to be performing his funeral. He's now taken that step that he creates his own funeral pyre. He chants his own mantras at his funeral. Of course, he doesn't step into the pyre, but it's symbolic that now I am socially, civilly dead, removed myself from society. And now I am going to be on the path of just my spiritual life. So in that way, that's how seriously this form of renunciation is taken. But here we also say that this is actually a celebrated conversation that we find in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where there's moral instructions that are given here about the life of King Puranjana. So the outskirts of the city, the nice garden. Now remember, city life is hustle and bustle. But this is the outskirts, it's surrounding the city, it's the beautiful garden, and it's the forest that's filled with various types of animals that are ahimsa, they are non-violent, which we don't find here, right? And Here the animals don't even fight. They've taken a vow, Muni Vrata, taken a vow of non-violence. They are peaceful. And this peaceful life with family is compared to the forest. However, Srila Prabhupada says that the wife and children are like burglars. Now, again, we may say that, one of the main forms, and we see that divorce is so prevalent in our society. Many, not ISKCON, in the community at large, in the world at large. And one of the main forms of divorce, they say, he or she is taking advantage of me, right? The spouse, the partner feels that they have been taken advantage of. And this is again, why is this? Because we are not seeing the spirit soul, but we are seeing the bodily form. So the family itself, in the old age, we've seen this, that sometimes parents pour in so much to their children. The children are successful. They study, they get good working conditions, they earn a lot of money, they get married and they live on their own life. As the parents who have sacrificed so much for their children to give them this, what happens to their parents? Their parents are often placed in care homes, old age homes as we call it here. Right? And few and far between these children even go and visit their parents. That is the stark reality of this age of Kali Yuga, that there is no responsibility to even our parents. And this is what Srila Prabhupada is actually mentioning here, where it's like burglars, that even those that are closest to you, like family members, like spouses, children who are meant to be closest to you in your bloodline, the relatives who are close to you, even before family, even before friends, they are like thieves. Right? Especially we may know also one of the things that happen in this world is when somebody dies, there's a fight for the estate. We've heard of that, right? There's siblings that are now are in contention for property, for wealth, for jewelry, for gold. What's mine? I've taken care of my parents for so long. This belongs to me. You haven't visited in how many years? Can you see? Srila Prabhupada's describing that here. He's describing that they are burglars and thieves that are coming into our lives. Why? Because we have lost that identification that we are actually the Atma, the Param Atma, the spirit soul. And we've become so attached to the material bondage and the material concept that everything is now just about family that's attached to wealth, that's attached to material possessions. So here also Srila Prabhupada explains that the whole material world exists on that mistake that we can identify as this body. And text 19 is quite deep. Because even His Holiness Radhanath Swami explains of the nature of the mind, right? Because the mind is all controlling and we have no real idea. We are seated here and according to science that there's 60,000 thoughts we have to ourselves, 60,000 baseline or more than that even. Every single day. And so our mind is actually proposing so many different experiences. Our mind is saying, let's do this. Our mind is saying, let's do that. But what we are going to pursue is what is going to be good or bad for us. It's our choice. Right? And we must ignore the things that are unfavorable. The mind will give us so many things to taste in this material world. Let's enjoy this attachment. Let's enjoy that desire. Let's chase after that pot of gold. But it is the mind that says, also, this is You need to use your intelligence now to say, this is unfavorable to my spiritual growth. Am I going to choose? What am I going to choose for my devotional service? So we have to pursue what's favorable to us after our identity and our roles in this particular form of life. Because the king here is also saying that he is engaged in so many activities, King Puranjana, that has fulfilled his material desires and senses. It's temporary. Those material desires, the fulfillment of sense gratification in this world is extremely temporary. What is our long-term goal? So eventually we will become increasingly controlled by the mind. If we do not change that mindset, if we do not take control of that, we will become increasingly controlled by those material desires and attachment. And eventually one will become so jaded, the mind will become so jaded that you will not even know what's favorable to devotion life and what isn't anymore. And now social media has become such a norm that how often do we scroll and do we just waste time on social media? So often our time just goes, and before we know it, 5 minutes, it's gone, 10 minutes, it's gone half an hour. Things just pop up. Things just pop up, next reel, next post, and so on. And time is wasted like that. What has also happened negatively over this period of the past few years is that work, although people, grihasthas, go to work, go to the office, but what has happened is that now so much has taken the online space that there's no differentiation between an 8 to 4 job or a 9 to 5, whatever we may call it here. There's all these online platforms. There's even now work groups that we are applying to at 7 p.m., 8 p.m. There's no boundaries that are set in terms of having our devotional or family life and that of material responsibility. So here we have, Srila Prabhupada also describes in chapter 30 of the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam, where Kapila Devi is speaking, and Srila Prabhupada describes just how the clouds don't know that they are being pushed by the wind. The clouds don't know. It happens fast sometimes when we see a storm that's brewing and coming and these clouds are moving and the wind is pushing them. So too, because we are so engrossed in our material life here that we don't understand how quickly time is passing. And before we know it, decades have passed, and then we sit back and think, what has happened to our life? What can we show? What have we done? Right? And when all of this happens, it becomes a stark reality that eventually this material world has just consumed us. So these moral instructions here is very powerful. Although I also felt that, Srila Prabhupada, now you are speaking about wives and children and how they are thieves and burglars and so on. But if we really have to step back and think about a family situation without Krishna consciousness, what is it? And this is what Srila Prabhupada is describing here. It can be beautiful and peaceful, with mutual respect, right? With care, with love, as in a family life should be ideally. Or it can be completely sense enjoyment based on the concept of attachment as the body and not the soul. His Holiness Radhanath Swami also, when we talk about love, and that's family relations, that's the relationship with the relatives, the relationship with spouses and so on. Radhanath Swami gives a very nice example. And he was saying that he had met Mother Teresa in the ghetto of Calcutta. And, he deeply describes this experience because it was something so moving to him. And he explains that there were some particular words that Mother Teresa spoke to him personally, and this is what she said: the greatest problem in this world is hunger. Not hunger of the stomach, but hunger of the heart. And he said that Mother Teresa described to him that although she's been to New York City, she's been to Mumbai, she's been to Boston, she's been around the world, but the poorest people who have died in her arms, she had seen that there's some sort of light in their eyes. There's that light of hope. There's that light. What it is, that light is, I'm detached from this body. Because those poorest people, in a sense of material poor, they know that this is just a journey they're passing on. They've experienced the hardships of life. Whereas the rich people, it is described that they are, when they die, they just have no bright light in their eye. And Radhanath Swami then says that the only love that can be fully fulfilled in this material world is the love of God, because God never disappoints. In a material relationship here, Prabhupada describes in the purport that what is it that the husband becomes so consumed in fulfilling his duty as a husband that although there's this material nature, he saves his family at all costs, right? Because, again, it is that disrespect that we find amongst each other. So if we place our love in the original source, and that is to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we will have a harmonious relationship between body and mind. And the Gita explains that we are not this body. The Gita explains that there will be no disappointment when we love God as we place that love in other human beings. So everything around us is constantly changing. Today, we have this weather. We are this particular age in the year 2026. And as the clouds are moving very fast by the wind, so too is time taking us through this journey of life. And if we do not use that time in our favor, we are going to regret it. Because when it comes to this old age and this form of our body now giving up on us, then we're going to say, how have we used our life? So again, although Srila Prabhupada has spoken here about the negative family connotations, it is also an eye-opener, a moral lesson by the characteristics of King Puranjana to say that this life can be as beautiful as this garden. It can be non-violent, it can be peaceful, it can be all things beautiful. But what happens, it's our choice on how we use our time. So there's dangers in our relationships that we have. We have to train our vision. There's two streams of these dangers in our relationships. And we have to train our vision to see further than what is just here, whether it is a family relationship, a relative relationship. We have to train our vision to see further. We do not get involved and sucked in as this family life or this bodily life is our entire being. We do not get consumed in it. How do we not do that? It's by devotee association. It's by performing devotional service. It's by chanting the holy names as given to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it is then being able to have this tapasya, or the sacrifices that we go through in life, because it's easily, we see this all the time, it's easily to get swept into the current or the tide of this material world. So when we see ourselves and identify, again, that's the essence of this verse, we identify that, our total dependence, our total love is that of the Supreme Being. Then this love between family life is there as a temporary measure. And I'm sure that you have experienced, or maybe not personally, but you've seen how sometimes these burglars come in right? They come in, they take what they must, and they leave. It leaves you heartbroken, right? Whether it's just not in a material sense, but in a sense that the heart feels all these emotions, and somebody has done me down, and this is what she's done to me, or this is what he has done to me, and he promised me the world, and so on. That is material entanglement. But if we detach to the I, and if both parties are detached to the I, there's that to the soul, to the super soul, and detached from the I, attached to just having mutual respect for each other, then that actually diminishes. And that's where a healthy family life comes in. So whatever we come across as, somebody who's done something to hurt us, whether it's a relative, it's a family member, ultimately we also understand that in our next life we will not meet. So why cause somebody else pain in this life? And very interestingly, it's those, as this age of Kali progresses, it's those that are closest to us are the most disrespectful. Some people just don't care, especially family. And it is also sad that sometimes when you need the support the most, those family members are not there for you. And you question, and that is why this actually, Srimad Bhagavatam here, this part on this allegory, teaches us the moral responsibility as human beings. Our moral responsibility to show us that life can be beautiful, can be peaceful. It is the choices that we make. So the wife may take, here Srila Prabhupada once said, if someone takes all your money, Srila Prabhupada once said this in a class and he was laughing about it. He said, if a thief, if a burglar comes and takes all your money, what do? You upset, you angry, right? You go to the police station, you open a charge, a case. But if your wife comes to you and takes all your money, hey, you're happy. She loves me. Right? She loves me. And she's asking me, and Prabhupada said this. And Prabhupada was laughing and saying this. So it's the same concept. Somebody is taking your money, but this is a burglar who's taking it. You're getting upset and angry. But if your wife comes to you and say, no, I need some money, I need some cash, I need to do this and so on, you feel so happy. Your heart is full. My wife loves me. And I'm the man here. I'm doing everything. I'm providing. I'm working hard. And so on. So Srila Prabhupada says that the only way that we could actually remain equipoised in this life is understanding that we have no attachment, the burglar and the wife. Right? It's the same concept, but two different people. So let us surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let us surrender whatever it is, our intelligence here, as the Queen was meant to be King Puranjan's intelligence. Let us surrender our lives. And now I'm going to take it one step further, that leave alone husband and wife, children also. Srila Prabhupada also speaks here about children. And we see this, that children do not even take care of their parents in their older time of life. And yet their parents have sacrificed so much for them and continue to do so. So when we understand that if, and this is a good example, we also give this so often, that in any relationship, whether it is a marriage, whether it's colleagues, or even here us as devotees, that when we see each other as servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we do not have this mentality of entitlement. We do not have this. We have this mutual respect, that if I have an issue with you, I can come to you and approach you in a very respectful way, because I am seeing Krishna seated in your heart. And when we are able to do that, and transcend from the bodily conflict or the bodily concept of life, she is my husband, he is He's my husband, she's my wife, you deserve this and I deserve that, and why are you doing this? And it becomes pointing fingers, and it becomes the ego that's coming. I do so much for you, why are you not doing enough for me? Eventually it is that conflict that's spoken about here, where we are attaching to the body and we are not attaching to the spirit soul. And when we understand that this Param Atma is within us, it is this friend of Puranjan that is the unknown friend that is described here in this chapter, is the unknown friend. The unknown is seated in our heart, and we have to use this life to get to know this unknown friend who is seated as the super soul. Devotional service, association of devotees, reading, as well as chanting the holy names. And now comes upon, in a few days, Gaur Purnima that we're all looking forward to, and we honor Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he has come in this form to show us what devotional service was meant to be. He had come to teach us, when we lead a regulated life based on the chanting of the holy name, these burglars, these thieves that will come, they will come knocking on the door every now and then. But we understand that our position is not to get attached. Our position is to fulfill the roles and responsibilities based on our ashram, our desired life as Tyaga. We are here as Tyaga, not as sannyas. We have our roles and responsibilities, but we also do it with the respect, understanding our eternal spirit is the most important. And by doing that, we have that fine line of saying we are living and fulfilling our duties in the material world, but we are not attached to the fruits or the outcome of it. So even if somebody is studying, like my children, whatever the outcome of the fruit of their studies are, it needs to be fulfilled in devotional service. That's what it is. It's not studying or the path of education and the path for the material pleasures of life. It needs to be that outcome has to be given back in your devotional service. And in that way, whatever, and as an example, whatever fruit of your material activity is now focused, the energy is focused, giving back to the devotees, giving back to Srila Prabhupada, giving back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we see every step in our life in that way, we are able to then live a harmonious, peaceful life. So essentially, this is what Srila Prabhupada says here. It can be very peaceful. The garden is very inviting. They invite all the passers-by, all the passengers. This garden is beautiful. Come, 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 come. But what we do in that garden is up to the individual. It's the choice that we make every single day, because the mind is going for it. We choose, make those choices that are favorable to our devotional practice. Thank you so much. Are there any questions, corrections, thoughts, comments? Please, you're welcome. Jai Sachinandan Prabhu. You're so learned. I feel that you should be able to share with us. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for that very enlightening. I'm sure you spoke from a lot of realization as a parent, and many parents who have children also present. And when Sri Prabhupada was speaking a lot about his realizations. Most of his purpose are based on his realizations. When you're reading about the forest, I was thinking of the 5th canto.
Right.
One chapter is called The Forest of Enjoyment. And there they, in more draconian way, they describe the children like jackals. And the wife like a witch who drinks the husband's blood. Very, very draconian descriptions of a man who's like has no goal of life. You know, he's like in a forest of sense enjoyment. And this is what happens. The repercussions of that type of lifestyle. You know, he becomes like plundered.
Yeah, plundered.
And Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Jai Sachinandan Prabhu. Yeah, hectic descriptions in the Bhagavatam. And again, it's our choice. We want to live a peaceful, happy life. It's possible. Or we want to be plundered in that material world. Thank you so much. Yes, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for that enlightening talk. I'm really, grateful for the topic you brought up. In our lives, in Krishna consciousness, my parents, my mom and dad, my sister, she's up in Joburg at the moment. So, we're trying to live life in Krishna conscious very nicely, but also family, relatives, they just want to put us down. So we're trying to detach. We're trying to detach ourselves from them. We show them everything. We preach to them. Sometimes it's not easy to preach to families and stuff like that. So, but they still want to enjoy materially, and we lost hope. But now there's a huge family of devotees which Prabhupada created. So, my real family is the family of devotees around. So, I belong to the devotees. My heart is with the devotees. This is my goal.
Haribo. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you. Yes. Here. Please pass the mic to Mataji. Actually, just to add to what you've said, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, that indeed, when we grow in our Krishna consciousness, this becomes our family.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Mataji,
Krishna.
and thank you for an enlightening class.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna to the devotees. Okay, we hear that the Grihastha ashram produces scandals, it produces all kinds of inimical qualities in children and in us, wives and women. But then we're precluded from taking sannyas. We are precluded from taking sannyas. What's the alternative then for women to can realize their full Krishna consciousness? And also, just briefly, we have heard about the sannyas ashram, the Grihastha, the Vanaprastha ashram. To whom does it relate? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you for that. So, I don't think women are actually completely not allowed to take sannyas. I do believe, as we've said, that every single day we have a choice. We can choose, as we say, to go through in our mind, in our action, in our life, that aspect of I'm in my next phase of life. So it may be just a formality to say that I'm officially taking sannyas or I'm officially taking this ashram. But if you internalize that as your own and you live your life in that path, then who's to say otherwise? All the characteristics are there. It may just be a formality, but if you want to go on the path of Vanaprastha, of the detachment from the Grihastha abode to now take that life as the Vanaprastha ashram, you make that choice and you live your life based on that choice. It's a relationship between you, Guru, and Krishna. And in your heart, in your mind, in your intelligence, in your choices, if that's the way you choose to live your daily life, Krishna will reciprocate. So maybe there's some formalities that are there that may not be fulfilled for now, but it can be if we in our mind want to renounce and as women take the sannyas ashram. It is possible. It is possible because it is our desire. And as we said, that Paramatma in our hearts, Krishna knows every single desire, and he will reciprocate with you and give you the strength and the courage to live your life as a sannyasi. I hope that helps with that. Thank you so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. All glories to their Lordship Shri Shri Radha Radhana. Thank you. Hare Krishna.